It was late 2008, and I'd been divorced just about 2 years. And after nearly 2 years of dating in Southern California, with each date being just a different form of catastrophe or dead end, I could realize I was reaching the end of my patience with what was available to me as a man, then at that time approaching my 50s, dating in America. For one thing, when I went on the dating sites, I already knew that there was no point at age 47 or so trying to set up dates with women in Southern California who were age, say, 22, 24, 25, right about that range. There was just no point in it. Wasn't going to go anywhere. Wasn't going to get any responses. So I would do these searches on the dating sites with about a 7-year gap above and below my own age, and just kind of thought, well, surely there's got to be somebody that's sane and normal that I'd want to be around. But that never happened. Now, I did find women. I did go out on dates. And some of them did lead to intimacy. However, none of them led to a relationship. But it was one particular final last date that I had, which finally pushed me over the edge. And looking back on it now, I can say that was the day I became what they now call red pill. Up until that point, I was dating with the idea that I was pretty much on a job interview with each of these dates. I was the one trying to get their approval, and they were the ones playing hard to get. And it's not like these were really what we now call, say, a highly valued woman. In fact, most of the dates that I went on were at restaurants, and after I got to know them after a second or third date, usually I was the one inviting them to my place so I could cook them a dinner, because they usually didn't know how to cook. These are women in their late 40s who either don't know how to cook, can't cook very well, or simply don't want to cook for a man. Now, because pickings were slim, I did what a lot of men did back then, and probably now. I widened my parameters of what I considered would be acceptable. Even back then, I didn't want a woman with kids, but then I started telling myself, well, maybe one kid, especially if the kid's already 13 years old, maybe I could deal with that. So there I was in late 2008. I come across this woman's profile. She's about 4 years younger than me, and in her profile it said mixed race. So I went out with her. We did the usual. We did dinner out in Temecula, nice restaurant, went out to the duck pond and hung out there a little bit, had some good conversation out on the benches. And as I'm getting to know her on this first date, she was part Brazilian, Irish, Native American, you name it. Just a complete mix. In fact, looking at her, you really couldn't say, oh, well, she's a Hispanic looking woman, or she definitely wasn't a white woman. She wasn't quite a black woman, and kind of sort of looked Asian. And I tried to tell myself, okay, well, that's unique. I've not seen many women like that. I'll give it a chance. Now, in the beginning, I thought to myself, this could maybe work out. She's highly intelligent. We were talking about so many different things. And she had all these opinions, and some were different from mine. And so we had these good back and forth conversations throughout the evening. She seemed very energetic. She seemed very positive. So I drove home that night alone, thinking, well, maybe this could go somewhere. This woman shows a little bit of potential. So I called her the next day. We chatted maybe 3 minutes because she was on her lunch break. So I told her, well, hey, Friday night's coming up. What do you say we grab a few pizzas, pick out a couple movies together, and hang out at my place? And she said yes. She was all for it. Now, this was somewhere around a Tuesday. So I'm busy going about the week, working, and it gets to be Friday afternoon. So I call her while I'm driving, and this is where everything starts to fall apart. I call her while I'm driving, and as I'm driving down the road, dialing her number or finding her in my contacts, I call, the other end picks up, and I said, "So are we still on for tonight? Is 6 o'clock good? We can meet over at the video place, pick up some movies." And on the other end of the line, what I hear is, "I don't want to hear from you anymore. Why are you calling me? We're done." So I was a little shocked, but I thought, well, whatever. Okay, fine. So I just hung up and figured, looks like I got my Friday night free again. And I remember thinking to myself, I was looking forward to some pizza. So I said to myself, I'm going to get myself some pizza. I'm going to go rent a few movies. I'm just going to stay in and not let the night go to waste. And I wasn't about to let this woman give me any more drama. So once I got settled in with my movies, I turned off my phone. I didn't want nobody bugging me. I was just going to eat my pizza and watch my movies. So then somewhere around 1 in the morning, I called it a night, went to bed, woke up the next morning, turn on my phone, and there's got to be 8 or 9 voicemails on my phone. And as I listened to each voicemail, they were all from that woman that I was supposed to meet with. And the first few were, "Where are you? Did you say this Friday or next Friday?" That was the first 2 voicemails I got. But by the third voicemail, she was livid. She was screaming into the phone, calling me all kinds of names, accusing me of everything under the sun. And this went on. It just kept crescendoing into the 7th and 8th voicemail. I mean, she was just at this point like a crazy woman, just full of anger. And so I thought, well, what's the story with this? She told me that she didn't want to go out. She didn't want to meet again. So I went back through my phone history, and it turns out that Friday afternoon while I was driving, I thought I had called her number, and I had accidentally called a number of somebody I went out with a long time ago. Totally different person. And I felt like an idiot. I was like, oh, okay, I obviously screwed this up. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just call back this woman. She's intelligent. If she's willing to hear me out, we'll probably both have kind of a laugh. She'll be a little offended. She'll forgive me. This will be one of those things we just kind of laugh about later on. So I call her. Soon as she heard my voice and recognized who it was, she just went off the reservation screaming again. And I tried my best to explain to her what had happened, but she was having none of that. It was like every angry thing she ever wanted to tell every other man in her life, she unloaded it on me. So I put up with that for about 30 seconds, realized there was no salvaging the situation, and I just hung up. Never talked to her again. Blocked her on my phone. It's like, done with this. And that was the day that I officially, in late 2008, it was after that incident that I officially told myself I will not date anymore. Not in the United States. Now, it never occurred to me to live outside the United States at this point. I had not heard about the Philippines or going there. That wasn't even on my radar. All I knew was I'm done. I am done dating in America. If the rules are I can only date women as old as me who have all this emotional baggage from 2 or 3 divorces, not to mention all the debt that they've accrued along the way, or the 2 or 3 kids they've got from 2 or 3 guys, if that's the rules I got to play by, that was the day I told myself I would rather focus on my business and spend the money having new experiences traveling around the United States. And so that's what I focused on. Took a trip to Las Vegas for a couple days, made a couple trips out to Mexico and stayed out there at Rosarito and just had a good time. But from that day forward, I never went on another date with an American woman. Now you might say, why throw the baby out with the bathwater? Surely there must be some good women still in the United States. Yes, there are. I do not believe that all American women are bad and nothing but trouble. But for my age range as a 48-year-old guy dating in America, the pickings were slim. If there was a good woman out there, I didn't find her. Maybe if I'd stuck it out, maybe I would have found one. I'm sure there's some good women out there. But when you're looking for the needle in the haystack, you can either take on that task or you can say to yourself, you know what? I know there's a needle in there somewhere, but I'm just not going to look for it. And it wasn't for another year after that of just being to myself, giving up on dating, canceled all the dating sites, stopped looking for women to ask out when I was out shopping. I spent a whole year, kind of what you'd call in monk mode, just doing my own thing. And it was only by happenstance that a client of mine wanted to meet at a Filipino restaurant. I walked in, saw this amazingly beautiful Filipino woman working there. Next thing you know, her and I are in a 2.5-year relationship, engaged, and that led to me making the decision to move full-time to the Philippines. But that's a whole other story. Now, my recommendation to you, if you're still living in the United States, Canada, UK, Australia, wherever, my recommendation to you is not to necessarily do what I did, completely give up. Hey, maybe there's some good women at the church. Maybe you'll find them on meetup.com doing other activities. Maybe you'll meet one salsa dancing or line dancing. But for me, I made the decision, my home country does not have what I'm looking for. And if that meant, which it did after I met the Filipina at the restaurant, if that meant me leaving my home country to go where the water is, because where I was at was the dating desert. And what does a man do when he's traveling across the desert where there is no water? He goes in the direction where there is water. It's the only sane option. If there isn't what you're looking for in your home country, you gotta go where there's an abundance of what you're looking for. Now, I know not everybody can just drop what they're doing and move to the Philippines. Many guys have still minor kids. They need to be there as a dad in their life. Other guys, financially, they need to continue running their business. They can't just shut that down. But I'm just saying that as far as your options, one of the things I learned through this process was it's better to be alone than to be with somebody wishing you could be alone. Know what you want, go after it if you can, but if you can't, don't settle for less.